My doctor once told me I had the health markers of a 50-year-old, even though I'm 87, and when he looked at my chart, then looked back at me, he asked a question I never expected to hear at my age. What are you doing differently? I told him about my mornings, about the things I do before 8 a.m. every single day, and instead of interrupting, instead of giving advice like most doctors do, he just listened, quietly, carefully, then went silent for a moment and finally said he needed to write this down. That was 6 months ago, and now he tells me half his patients are following the same routine. My name is Frank Miller. I live alone in a small house in Vermont. No nursing home, no daily caregiver, no special equipment, just me, my old coffee mug, and a set of simple habits I've repeated for years without ever thinking they were anything special. Last summer, my neighbor's son came to visit from California. He's 42, works in tech, goes to the gym, considers himself healthy, so we decided to take a walk around the small lake near my house. Nothing intense, just an easy 20-minute stroll. About halfway through, he was breathing hard, sweat on his forehead, hands on his knees, while I wasn't even tired, not out of breath, not struggling, just walking like I always do. He looked at me like I had just performed some kind of trick and asked me what I was made of, and that's when I realized something important. Here's what nobody really tells you about aging. It's not your age that decides how your body feels. It's what you do in the first hour after you wake up. Because those 60 minutes quietly set the tone for everything that follows. Mess them up, and you spend the whole day stiff, tired, and playing catch-up with your own body. But get them right, and your body starts working with you instead of against you. Most people wake up already stressed. They grab their phone, scroll through bad news, rush into their day, and tense up before their feet even touch the floor. Then they wonder why they feel exhausted before breakfast. I used to be like that too. I thought slowing down meant giving up. But what I learned over time is simple. Your morning is either training your body to decay or training it to stay alive. And the difference isn't luck, it isn't genetics, and it certainly isn't expensive supplements or miracle programs. It's just a handful of small habits done in the right order, every single day. And that's what changed my life. And that's what I'm about to share with you. 5 years ago, I wasn't walking around lakes, I wasn't impressing anyone, and I definitely wasn't being told I had the body of a 50-year-old. Most mornings, I could barely get out of bed without holding onto the wall. My knees ached before my feet even touched the floor. My back felt like it had rusted overnight, and I would shuffle to the bathroom like I was walking on broken glass, slow, stiff, and already tired before the day had even started. I remember one morning standing in front of the mirror and not recognizing the man staring back at me. My shoulders were slumped. My face looked older than I felt inside. And for the first time in my life, I caught myself thinking, maybe this is just how it ends. My daughter started dropping hints. Not directly, not cruelly, but I could hear it in her voice. Maybe it's time to consider assisted living. Maybe you shouldn't be alone anymore. Maybe it would be safer if someone was around. She meant well, I know that. But something in me refused to accept that my life had already shrunk into a waiting room. I wasn't sick. I wasn't broken. I just felt trapped in a body that no longer responded the way it used to. And that scared me more than the idea of dying, because it felt like I was disappearing while still alive. So I made a decision. Not a dramatic one. Not some big life transformation. I just decided to start paying attention, to experiment with my mornings, to notice what made me feel worse and what made me feel even slightly better. Some days nothing worked. Some days I felt ridiculous, lying in bed doing things that felt too simple to matter. But slowly, quietly, something started changing. I woke up with less pain. I stood up without groaning. I stopped reaching for the wall every time I walked down the hallway. And after a few months, I realized I hadn't thought about my age in weeks. That's when it hit me. Aging didn't suddenly get worse. I had just stopped giving my body what it needed to stay strong, and once I started again, it remembered how to respond. I didn't get younger, but I got more capable, more stable, more confident, and most importantly, I got my independence back. Not through force, not through motivation, but through small, quiet habits repeated every single morning. The first habit is the one most people get completely backwards, because the moment they wake up, the first thing they do is reach for their phone, they check messages, emails, the news, and within 30 seconds their brain goes from calm to chaos. Their heart rate jumps, their shoulders tense, their mind starts racing, and before their feet even touch the floor, their body already thinks something is wrong. I used to do the same thing. I thought I was being productive, staying informed, keeping up with the world. But what I was really doing was teaching my nervous system to live in emergency mode from the very first moment of the day. So I decided to try the opposite. Now, when I open my eyes, I don't move, I don't sit up, I don't check anything. I just lie flat on my back with my hands at my sides and focus on my breathing. 5 seconds in through my nose, 5 seconds out through my mouth. Slow, steady, nothing fancy. Just breathing like a calm person instead of a panicked one. I do this for exactly 10 minutes, and during that time, something important happens inside my body. My heart rate stays low, my blood pressure stays stable, and my brain has time to gently transition from sleep to being awake. There is no shock to the system, no sudden stress, no feeling like I've been thrown into the day. Most people don't realize this, but when you sleep, your body is in repair mode. Your heart slows down, your muscles relax, and your system resets. But the moment you jolt awake and start rushing, your body releases stress hormones like it's trying to escape danger. Do that every morning for years, and you train your body to feel tired, tense, and overwhelmed before breakfast. I saw this clearly with my friend George. He's 73, former Marine, tough as nails, the kind of man who thinks breathing exercises are nonsense, but I convinced him to try this for 1 week. Just one. On the third day, he called me and said he didn't understand what was happening, but his blood pressure had dropped by 15 points, and for the first time in years, he felt calm when he woke up. His doctor couldn't explain it, but I could, because all George had done was stop shocking his body awake every morning and start letting it wake up naturally. This habit costs nothing, takes 10 minutes, and yet it completely changes how your day begins, because instead of starting your morning in stress, you start it in control, and that one shift alone can make an aging body feel 10 years younger. The second habit happens the moment my feet touch the floor, and it looks so simple that most people think it's pointless, but this one habit alone has probably saved me from more falls than anything else I do. Instead of standing up right away, I sit on the edge of my bed for exactly 2 minutes. No phone, no rushing, no distractions, just sitting there and letting my body catch up with my mind. After 8 hours of lying down, all your blood has settled in your core. Your legs are basically half asleep, and if you stand up too fast, your brain doesn't get enough oxygen for a moment. That's when you feel dizzy. That's when the room spins, and that's when people fall. Most elderly falls don't happen because people are weak. They happen because people are rushed. So while I'm sitting, I move my feet, I point my toes forward, then pull them back, 10 times each foot, slow and steady, activating my calf muscles and helping push blood back up toward my heart. It's like warming up an old engine before trying to drive it. You don't floor the gas the moment you turn the key. You give it a second to wake up. After 2 minutes, I stand up slowly, and there's no dizziness, no wobbling, no grabbing for the wall, just a steady feeling like my body knows where it is. There's a woman in my town named Martha. She's 81. Last winter she rushed out of bed to answer the phone, felt lightheaded, lost her balance, and broke her hip on the way down. She went from living independently to living in a facility in a matter of weeks. I visited her a few months later, and she squeezed my hand and said she wished she had listened to me, not about exercise or diet, but about simply sitting before standing. Falls are not random, they are patterns. And most of them start with the same mistake, standing up too fast in a body that needs a few extra seconds to adjust. 2 minutes in the morning may not feel important, but those 2 minutes protect your balance, your confidence, and your ability to stay in your own home instead of someone else's. The third habit is the one my doctor asked me about the most, because it directly solved the one problem almost everyone my age complains about: back pain in the morning. Most people blame their mattress, they blame their pillow, they blame their age, but the truth is, the problem usually isn't how you slept, it's what you do immediately after waking up. When you lie down for hours, your spine slowly compresses, the discs between your vertebrae lose fluid, and by the time you wake up, you are actually a little shorter than you were the night before. That's normal, but here's the part nobody tells you. If you stand up and start moving right away, you're forcing a compressed spine to carry your full body weight before it's ready. That's why so many people feel stiff, sore, or sharp pain in their lower back before breakfast. So here's what I do, and this one change completely transformed my mornings. After sitting on the edge of the bed, I lie back down again, but not flat. I place 2 pillows under my knees so my legs are slightly bent, which tilts my pelvis and takes pressure off my lower back. Then I do nothing. I don't stretch. I don't move. I just lie there for exactly 7 minutes and let gravity work in my favor instead of against me. During those 7 minutes, the discs in my spine slowly rehydrate, absorbing fluid like sponges, returning to their natural shape and length. By the time I stand up again, my back feels loose, flexible, and pain-free. Not stiff, not locked, not fragile. My daughter thinks I'm being lazy. My neighbor thinks I'm strange. But I know what's happening inside my body, and I'd rather look strange for 7 minutes than spend the rest of the day in pain. My brother-in-law is 68. Every morning he jumps out of bed and immediately bends forward to touch his toes, thinking he's doing the right thing. But what he's really doing is compressing an already compressed spine. He's been dealing with back pain for years, spends money on treatments, pills, appointments, and still complains every day. I told him about the pillow method. He tried it once, said it felt pointless, and went back to his old routine. Now he can barely walk by noon. That's the difference between knowing something and actually applying it. One creates comfort, the other creates chronic pain. The fourth habit happens in the bathroom, but it's not about showering or brushing your teeth. It's about something most people do automatically, without ever thinking about how it affects their body. When I sit down on the toilet, I don't lean forward. That sounds trivial, but over the years, that one small movement can quietly destroy your pelvic strength and your bladder control. Leaning forward puts constant pressure on your lower abdomen, and for men especially, it places unnecessary strain on the prostate, day after day, year after year. Most people don't notice the damage until it's too late, until they can't go 2 hours without needing a bathroom, until they start planning their entire day around restroom locations. I know men my age who can't travel, can't sit through a movie, can't even take a short car ride without anxiety. Not because they're sick, but because they've trained their body into weakness through poor posture. So I do the opposite. I sit upright, shoulders relaxed, spine straight, feet flat on the floor, and I let my body work the way it was designed to work, without forcing or straining anything. It takes no extra time, it costs nothing, and yet the long-term effect is massive. I can still go 4 hours between bathroom breaks. I can drive across multiple states without stopping. And last year my doctor told me I had the bladder control of someone 20 years younger. That didn't come from genetics. It came from habits repeated so often they became automatic. Nobody ever taught us how to sit properly. We just copied what we saw as kids. But small mistakes done thousands of times quietly shape the body, for better or for worse. This one habit alone won't make you healthier, but it protects a part of your independence that most people don't think about until they've already lost it. The fifth habit is one most people find strange at first, because it looks like something you would do at night, not in the morning. But this one simple action solved more problems for me than any pill ever did. Before I eat anything, before I drink coffee, before I even sit down. I stand in my kitchen and gently massage my abdomen for 3 minutes. I place my right hand around my belly button and move in slow, clockwise circles, starting light and gradually pressing a little deeper as the muscles relax. What this does is wake up your digestive system. Most people assume digestion starts when food enters the stomach, but your intestines need a signal before they can work properly. And for most elderly people, that signal is caffeine or food hitting an unprepared body. That's why so many people my age struggle with bloating, constipation, and discomfort. They're forcing their system to work before it's ready. The massage does 3 important things. It stimulates movement in your gut, it increases blood flow to your digestive organs, and it helps release gas that built up overnight. I know that last part sounds crude, but trapped gas causes real pain, and most people live with it without realizing why they feel uncomfortable every morning. I learned this technique from a nurse who spent 30 years working with elderly patients, and she told me the people who did this simple massage had far fewer digestive complaints than those who didn't. I've been doing it for 6 years now, and I haven't had heartburn once. I haven't been constipated once, and my stomach works on a regular schedule without medication. There's a man at the senior center named Bill. He's 79 and takes 4 different medications just to manage his digestion. He spends a small fortune every month. I showed him this massage. He laughed at me at first, thought I was joking, but 6 months later I saw him again, and he had stopped 3 of his medications. He told me he felt foolish for not trying something so simple sooner. And that's the lesson here. Sometimes the body doesn't need more chemicals, it just needs a little guidance. The 6th habit is the one that makes my neighbors think I've completely lost my mind, because every single morning, after I finish the abdominal massage, I walk to my back door, open it, and step outside barefoot. No shoes, no socks, no matter the weather. I stand there on my wooden porch for exactly 5 minutes. Sometimes it's cool and pleasant, sometimes it's freezing cold, especially in Vermont winters. But I do it anyway, rain or shine, summer or snow. Most people my age do the opposite. They keep their homes warm all year. They wear extra layers indoors. They avoid cold air like it's dangerous, and then they wonder why their bodies can't handle temperature changes anymore. What they don't realize is that comfort makes the body weaker. When your feet touch cold ground, your body has to respond. Your blood vessels tighten, then relax. Your circulation improves, and your system wakes up in a very real way. I'm not talking about suffering. I'm talking about gentle stress, just enough to remind the body that it's still alive and capable of adapting. There was a study from Europe that showed people who practiced regular cold exposure had far fewer sick days than those who stayed comfortable all the time, and I believe that completely because I haven't had a cold in 4 years, not one. My nephew came to visit last Christmas. He's 38, lives in Florida, keeps his house warm year-round, and when we stepped outside to get firewood, he lasted maybe 90 seconds before running back inside shivering. I stayed out there another 10 minutes and felt perfectly fine. He looked at me and said my body must be broken. I told him the opposite. His body wasn't trained, mine was. At first, this habit feels uncomfortable. Your instinct will tell you to go back inside after 30 seconds, but if you push through, something interesting happens. Your breathing slows, your mind clears, and your body stops fighting the cold and starts working with it. After 2 weeks, you'll notice you don't feel cold as easily anymore. After 2 months, you'll realize you haven't been sick, and after a year, you'll wonder how you ever lived without challenging your body in small ways. This isn't about being tough, it's about staying adaptable, because a body that never faces mild discomfort slowly forgets how to protect itself. The 7th habit is the one that seems the least important, but in many ways, it's the one that holds everything together. After I come back inside from standing in the cold, the very first thing I do is make my bed. No delay, no excuses, no leaving it for later. It takes less than 2 minutes, but that small action sets the tone for the rest of my day. When you make your bed, you're not just straightening sheets, you're sending a signal to your mind that order still matters, that your space is worth caring about, and that you are still in control of your environment. I've seen what happens when people stop doing small things like this. There's a woman in my building named Patricia. She's 73, and her apartment looks like a storage room. Clothes on the floor, dishes in the sink, papers everywhere. She's constantly stressed, always looking for things she can't find, always overwhelmed. And yet she tells herself it doesn't matter anymore, because she's old and nobody visits. But the truth is, the chaos outside reflects chaos inside. A messy home creates a messy mind, and a messy mind makes everything feel heavier than it needs to be. I keep my space simple and clean, not because I'm obsessed with tidiness, but because I know my mental clarity depends on it. When my bed is made, I'm more likely to eat properly, more likely to do my exercises, more likely to stick to my routines, because I've already proven to myself that I can follow through on something small. Discipline doesn't start with big goals. It starts with tiny actions repeated every day. And making your bed is one of the easiest ways to remind yourself that your life is still yours to shape. Most people think these habits are just separate little tricks that happen to take place in the morning. But that's not how they actually work. They're not independent actions. They're parts of one system that supports the body from the inside out. Each habit prepares you for the next one. When I start with calm breathing, my nervous system stays relaxed. So when I sit on the edge of the bed, my balance is better and my body doesn't feel rushed. When my circulation is already moving, the spine reset works more effectively, because the tissues are hydrated and responsive instead of stiff and tense. When my posture in the bathroom is correct, there's no strain in my core, which makes the abdominal massage easier and more effective. When my digestion is awake, my body handles cold exposure better, because my system is already active and alert. And when I come back inside and make my bed, my mind is in the right state to maintain discipline for the rest of the day. It's a chain. Remove one link, and the whole thing becomes weaker. I learned this the hard way one winter when I decided to skip the cold exposure for a week because I felt lazy and wanted to stay warm. Within 3 days, I noticed I was more irritable, my focus was worse, and I woke up with a scratchy throat that turned into a mild cold, the first one I'd had in years. Nothing else had changed, just that one habit. The moment I went back to standing outside in the cold, everything stabilized again. That's when I realized these habits weren't optional anymore. They weren't just nice ideas. They were part of how my body stayed balanced. A doctor in Boston once studied people who lived past 100, and he found that the healthiest ones all had structured mornings, not the same routines, but the same principle. They did specific things, in the same order, every single day, and their bodies adapted to that pattern. Longevity isn't about forcing your body to perform, it's about giving it a rhythm it can rely on, because a body that knows what's coming doesn't panic, and a body that doesn't panic doesn't break down as easily. When I look around at people my age, I don't feel superior. I feel surprised at how different our lives look, even though we were born in the same era. The average American at 87 is taking a handful of medications every day, some for blood pressure, some for pain, some for sleep, some just to manage the side effects of the others. Their kitchen counter looks like a small pharmacy. Pill bottles lined up like a routine they can't escape, and most of them don't even remember what half of those pills are for anymore. Many of them can't drive, can't travel alone, can't walk far without assistance, and spend most of their time sitting, watching television, waiting for the next appointment or the next prescription. My life looks very different. I take 2 medications, both for blood pressure, and even my doctor says I might not need those if I lose a few more pounds. I still drive myself to the grocery store, I still take weekend trips, I still live alone without help, and I don't need anyone to remind me when to take care of myself. What makes this even more surprising is that my family history isn't special. Both my parents died in their early 70s. Heart disease runs in my family, and statistically, I should be worse off than most people my age. But I'm not. And the only real difference I can point to is how I live my mornings. I didn't inherit good health. I built it slowly, quietly, one routine at a time. I didn't avoid aging. I just avoided neglecting myself. Most people assume decline is inevitable, but what they're really experiencing is the result of years of small habits that worked against them instead of for them. The body doesn't collapse overnight. It slowly responds to what you give it, and in my case, I finally started giving it something worth responding to. Most people will watch something like this, nod along, maybe feel inspired for a moment, and then go right back to doing exactly what they did yesterday. They'll hit snooze, rush out of bed, check their phone, complain about feeling tired, and wonder why nothing ever changes. That's not because they're lazy. It's because change feels uncomfortable, and comfort feels safer than effort, even when that comfort is slowly making life smaller. But if you're still here, still listening, something inside you already knows there's a better way. You don't need a new body, you don't need perfect genetics, and you don't need expensive programs or products. You just need a new morning. These 7 habits take less than 50 minutes in total, not 2 hours, not some complicated routine that requires equipment or money, just simple actions done with intention. I'm not asking you to transform your entire life overnight. I'm asking you to try something small. Tomorrow morning, wake up 47 minutes earlier than usual, and do these habits in order. Breathe, sit, reset your spine, watch your posture, wake up your digestion, feel the cold, make your bed. Then do it again the next day, and the next. Give your body 1 week to respond. In 6 months, you might be the one people ask for advice, the one moving easily while others struggle, the one still living on your own terms instead of adjusting to limitations you never chose. I'm 87 years old, I live alone, I move without fear, and I don't feel like I'm waiting for life to end. I feel like I'm still living it. And you can too, no matter your age, no matter your past, as long as you're willing to stop copying what everyone else does and start doing what actually works. So if this message meant something to you, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more honest advice about aging well, and leave a comment telling me your age and which habit you're going to start with tomorrow. Your future self is already watching and hoping you finally decide to begin.